AI is not new for insurers. We have been deploying AI for the last decade. This AI agent that can be utilized in multiple ways and can hallucinate and can make mistakes. The agent can go rogue. The cost of a wrong answer is very expensive. GitHub being hacked, poison package that is used massively, millions of users every week. AI, it's stress testing our existing processes. We don't have the full answers. The world has changed.
Hi everybody, welcome back to ATxEnterprise Tech Unpacked. In this episode of the podcast, we are unpacking the shift from AI tools to agentic systems, specifically what changes when AI stops recommending and starts acting, and what it takes to scale agentic AI inside one of the most regulated industries on the planet. From the real state of AI in insurance to the agentic systems, Zurich has actually put into production to the data privacy, governance, and security layer every CIO and CTO is wrestling with right now. Sami Mahmal is the head of data and AI Asia Pacific at Zurich Insurance, where he leads the regional data and AI agenda, scaling the team's impact tenfold across growth, profitability, and operational efficiency. Sami, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Ed. Thanks for hosting me.
All right, so now you sit in the front of data and AI for one of the world's largest insurers in APAC. Now, unpack this for us. What's the real state of AI in the insurance world in 2026?
Well, thanks, Ed. It's a question that comes a lot, even more the last couple of years, but maybe to start with, AI is not new for insurers. We have been toying, we have been implementing, we've been deploying AI for the last decade. And when we talk about AI, we more often talk with traditional AI, where machine learnings and all of the structured data lands in. So what really have changed, and I guess that started almost 4 years now, is ChatGPT being released. And then it put the spotlight on the GPT family of models that Google has kickstarted and launched a couple of years back. And ChatGPT made it open to everyone, and everyone was able to experiment with LLMs. So now LLMs was the new trending domain that unlocked and made AI a topic for everyone. And actually, for us insurers, what it changed is that the potential of unstructured data now became much more accessible with generative AI. And for that, I can give some examples. Maybe we'll can tap into it later. But that's what really has changed for the last 3 years. So unstructured data, and we are doing a lot with it today in insurance, and I can give you a couple of examples.
Right, that's really interesting because now we're looking at data sets that are larger and larger and larger, right? With all the agents that we actually put in, whether it's banking, insurance, finance, so on and so forth, the agents are for customer facing as well as back office for workflow, right? What's still in the sandbox conversation in the industry then?
A lot. So when we started with the generative AI, and maybe I can throw in a couple of examples on what we are doing. The initial use case was around chatbots. That's what everyone was doing. Building chatbots so that we can facilitate and make our internal data and our internal knowledge accessible to a ChatGPT, which is just trained on internet data and can give a lot of knowledge with hallucinations. For us insurers, the challenge that we will have to face is how can we answer to specific questions or inquiries on claims or underwriting. So we cannot just guess the answers, and the cost of a wrong answer is very expensive, obviously, for us. So the first domain that we insurers have started working on is how we can use chatbots so that we can improve our internal efficiency and tap into our internal knowledge. So that was the biggest domain that we started with 3 years ago. It started with drag, and then, multiple fork of families. The models started improving. The context, which is the size of the data that a model can take, has increased dramatically. So this domain has changed a lot for the last couple of years. And now we have reasoning models that give us much more accurate answers. But without going to the technicality, that was the initial domain that we insurers and everyone else in the industry started playing with. Now, you mentioned agents. This is really the trending topic since end of last year, and this is where we're being very active at. So where agents right now, when you're asking around sandbox, we have multiple sandbox and non-sandbox. I can touch base on what we are doing at Zurich Insurance. today we are playing with a lot of AI agents across underwriting claims I mentioned earlier, but also, and that, I guess that's maybe the easiest domain and where all of the leaders are playing right now, which is internal facing agents for the back office activities. How can we automate some of the activities that have been done manually today with AI agents? So for example, extracting information, keying it into the systems, reviewing, revising the information, double checking on multiple systems before enforcing the information. That's something that I know that a lot of folks in the industry are playing with and actually deploying already in production. That's almost a given. And I think that since the beginning of the year with Opus 4.6, now for Opus 4.7, and the latest release from ChatGPT as well, going to the 5x family, the models have improved dramatically and now are allowing agents to be run with much more accuracy. In order to frame it maybe easily for non-AI experts, maybe last year we could still call agents, but then the orchestration of the agent is that was really inaccurate. The agent can go rogue and then not use the right tools. For example, you ask the agent to, if I ask you the specific question, you need to go to this document and fetch the information. And then the agent will miss out and then they will forget to, or they will not understand that they had to fetch this document and they will go sideways. So multiple things have improved. One is the reasoning models have improved dramatically at the beginning of this year, really dramatically at the beginning of this year. It was a really massive shift of intelligence for us. And second, I don't know if you heard about Open Cloud. So there was now a concept which is called harness. Putting harness around AI models so that they can be very directed towards an outcome. So the AI agent is not going rogue, they can follow some guardrails. Open Cloud is just an example of how to harness the power of AI agents, but there are multiple frameworks now in the industry and the top players are now playing with, releasing much more frameworks around that. So that's the topic where I really focus on right now. How can we control, and specifically for us, insurers, how can we make these agents, this AI agent that can be utilized in multiple ways and can hallucinate and can make mistakes, but put them into a very knowledge specific, a very deep domain knowledge specific for us insurers, and having a strong harness around them so that they can get things right, or at least we decrease the risk of going wrong.
That's a really good point because a lot of the AI agents, especially in highly sensitive data that is being held, by, for example, Zurich, again, with the platforms like OpenClaw. These are all third-party platforms that, if brought into the enterprise, could also have security issues as well, right? So one question is, how does an enterprise now start accepting, platforms like that without literally breaking the bank in that sense?
So at Zurich, we take a very pragmatic use case risk-based approach. So for use cases that have low risk of impacting impacting our operational activities, where that's one thing, it's an easy one. We have a much more fast track ways of implementing, deploying things and running it into production. For use cases that will have that touch on operational risk or any exposure to external users, we have a much more extensive way of controlling and ensuring that we are ticking the right boxes from a governance perspective and a risk perspective. I'm talking here only about the AI governance because that's the starting point, but obviously on all of the remaining components on IT, security, privacy, that's components that are non-negotiable, AI or non-AI. So these are layers that are put in place into production. The novelty with AI is that it's stress testing our existing processes. And that's where we are as an organization, on top of building AI use case, and we are mindful of the risk of a specific AI use case and focusing on how to control and mitigate the risk of the specific AI use case. We also have several activities on how we can improve the way that we govern, the way that we secure our systems. I think that everyone have heard about the oncoming release of Anthropic, with all of the cyber security experts saying that this will this will give access to hackers to breach systems easily. And we are seeing multiple, I don't know if you're following on security news, every week there is a poisoned packet or package that is used massively, millions of users that emerge in the public world. Like there's just news of yesterday night, this morning, of GitHub being hacked. So these are news that emerge every day, and these are they're not even related to AI use cases. This is just how AI now is empowering and enabling anyone to start building tools or even being a vector of attack. So even beyond, if I take a step back on AI use case, this is stress testing all of the IT organizations, CIO, CTOs organizations. And now we are reconsidering on how we are releasing in production application, even unrelated to AI. How can we ensure that we are moving from traditional sense of terms where when you want to release an application to production, a traditional company will just, well, okay, let's review all of the requirements, let's sign off, okay, the system is secured, you can go to production. Now we're in a world where frequency release is increasing a lot, and where even packages that were safe a couple of days, a couple of weeks ago, a couple of hours ago, GitHub is one of the biggest Git code hosting platform in the world. A lot of companies, public listed companies, are relying on it. It got hacked. So it's more around how to ensure and understand the new risks and how to ensure that we have the right mitigation in place and have the right auditing monitoring around it. So we don't have the full answers. We just know that the world has changed dramatically for the last couple of months, and we are getting stress tested into how enabling it.
As quickly as AI can help scale, it also exposes all the chinks in the armor as well, just as quickly.
And it's at the beginning, because these models are not even released to the public world, so it will only
Exactly. So this is really a problem. But we talked a lot about the development, production, and also the rollout of the agentic systems. Could you walk me through one of the processes of how it was successfully done over at Zurich?
Let me take this example of Z-Buddy. So that's, if I start from the pain point, we have in Malaysia, but also in other countries, we are servicing agents that are selling the insurance for customers. So it's independent agents that come to us and say, well, I'm selling this insurance, your insurance product. I have questions around the product. There are also other questions related to the policy that they have sold that they want us to service. And these agents, they're always on the road, going meeting customers here and there. So we started with this problem statement: how can we support this agent that are always on the road and help them service better their customers? Where historically we had desktop application where they had to go on the website, log in, and then get all of the information related, go and reach the product specification, and then read and then answer to the customer. What we implemented and what we deployed successfully last year was Z-Buddy. So it's a WhatsApp accessible chat agent that service the agent. So for example, the agent is on the road going to meet a customer, and they can already ask, okay, what's the situation of the customer? Is there any open claims? What's the product that the customer have? And this interaction happened directly on WhatsApp, and the customer and the agent is able to get all of that directly on his mobile. It doesn't stop there. We even go up to answering to specific product-related questions, but even going beyond, and now we are implementing more and more tool to this agent so that it can even service the policy. Now, coming back to your question on the challenges and how to move out of the sandbox area. So challenge number one, I would say, for all of the folks that are right now running AI initiatives is getting a business alignment on what are we trying to achieve. Building AI agents and deploying AI agents to production is very tough across multiple areas that I can touch base more maybe in a minute. But the only common denominator for success is ensuring that the leadership are committed to execute on this business problem or this business challenge. And it doesn't matter if it's AI agents or non-AI agents. It's more like, this is the problem that we want to focus on, this is what we want to crack, and we think eventually that AI agents will help us accelerate on that path. That's really important, because if that alignment is not there, as soon as the first challenge will start coming up, then everything will just die. So it's very important to have this alignment. Now that's really challenge number one that the leadership needs to be aware of. It doesn't start as a POC on the side and emerge as a bottom-up initiative. It needs to be driven top-down. Now, maybe I can touch base on some of the challenges that we usually see down the road. The first challenge is that AI agents, and here I'm talking more from technical terms, they use tools. And if the AI agents want to use tools, they need to be able to interact with your own systems. And that the first requirement almost is, do you have IT capabilities that are API enabled that can interact with these agents? That's challenge that we see number one, and that's the technical challenge. So coming back to my point earlier, if you don't have the right leadership alignment that this is important, and the underlying infrastructure is then nudged towards being ready for AI agent, then all of agentic AI use case will just die out. So APIs, IT systems that are ready for connectivity with agents are really important. The other challenges, and maybe I will just probably will have more questions on that regard, but maybe some of the other challenges that we'll face is around what risk and what autonomy and agency want to delegate to these agents. And this becomes a business problem because we decide between the risk and the value that we get by delegating this authority to the agent, and then we decide on when to put the threshold. Because coming back to the point earlier on the being pragmatic on the use case, there is some use case where we can say, you know what, it's an internally, there will be a human in the loop. Go agent, you can do whatever you want, just come back with all of the action that you decide that you're gonna plan, and then human will accept and reject. But if you give full autonomy to the agent to even do changes in production, then you want to make sure that the domain where you give agency is very much controlled. You can understand what happened at any moment of time. You can review all of the actions, and you are able to monitor and control the accuracy and the quality so that you can act upon it. So in a nutshell, the deployment is just the start, and then everything is around monitoring and ensuring how to drive this behavior.
It sounds like everything becomes just in time after that. It's just monitoring, improving, monitoring, improving, monitoring, improving, constantly trying to keep evolving it. Do you also then employ sub-agents to be able to kind of build that up for you as well, to gather all the data and then work out potential solutions?
We are actually testing some of these agents. I think that the focus right now for us is really making sure that we are having the top aspiration that we want to focus on from a business perspective, and building the AI agents and assessing the underlying AI agents. Even the AI agent is just one piece of the problem. Then it's more how we make sure that the AI agents contribute towards bigger, more complex decisions. That's really, I would say, the level 2 of the maturity.
And it must always be aligned with the business. That's what you said.
And of course, that's something that all of these are aligned with the business, and the AI teams are coming almost as a translator and evaluator to see that, well, what you're trying to achieve, this is what's feasible, this is the accuracy, and these are the challenge. Now, stage 3 maturity is being able to understand from all of the past cases in an autonomical way, and then having the AI agent identifying the gaps and even suggesting some changes. And we're seeing this emerging as a new trend in the industry. Self-learning agents be self-learning and reacting even to the point where the agent come back and say, well, you know what, maybe you want to change the code to do this, because we see this as coming as a recurrent problem. But that's, I would say, maybe still a couple of months ahead.
Months. I was actually thinking years, because there's going to be so much more testing to go. So you're thinking months.
Well, we see the industry, like just a couple of days ago, there are multiple well-known frameworks that are already releasing agents that are doing this natively. So it's more a matter of to which extent we can integrate this to our stack, and to which extent we are able to monitor traceability and control. So
there's a lot of innovation that's going on here. And I think that you are also very much in the loop of all the learning points that you got, especially from the hyper challenge that you did. So for those who are watching and don't know about the hyper challenge, internally you had 218 prototypes, right? And of which 5 were produced. And I'm not sure what the distribution rate or the deployment rate was. Give us more details about that. And more importantly, what did you learn from all of that?
Our group is really plugged into innovation, driving innovation across the Zurich Insurance. So we worked with our group organization on identifying what would be startups, projects that can unlock Agentic AI. Agentic AI, if we go back 1 year ago, it was still, very early stage. The models were not yet at the right maturity for the common use cases. But last year, our group innovation launched this initiative on saying like, okay, the best way to learn is to get out there in the market and to be as close as possible to the startups that are really leading and developing the way. This is, by the way, our Zurich Insurance group has always been active in the Zurich Innovation Championship, so it's not the first time that we're working with startups. So every year, Zurich select startups that we identify as key for our business, and then we identify them to very specific areas that are very important for our strategy that we want to transform. And then we onboard them and then we work with them in order to deploy multiple initiatives. So this Agentic hackathon was in the same spirit, identifying startups that can help us execute with a very strong lens on agentic AI on some very specific problems. It was a hackathon that was both internal and external, and by the way, my APAC team also joined the hackathon to implement on a use case, and we identified 4 startups, I think, that were bringing a unique proposition value to the different areas that we wanted to execute on. So ultimately, it was startups that have been selected, and then these startups are right now working across the group and implementing multiple POCs and even going to production on multiple initiatives. So we are seeing this as startups with unique proposition value, but working on deploying hopefully many more use cases within the organization.
That's really interesting. And again, what do you think you've learned from that process? I'm sure that they may have probably picked up on some problems that you didn't even see.
Well, the interesting part is that the group did a huge job, so our Zurich Insurance group did a huge job on identifying the business problems, making the data available in a way that's anonymized so that we can get these startups to onboard and to play with it. So challenge number 1 is identifying the problems, and it was more of an internal challenge. What we learned from the process is really learning how the AI agent can be implemented and deployed. And that was the learning that the industry, the startups from the industry have brought to us, is looking at how we can explore AI agentics and orchestration, how we can build AI agents from a different lens.
That being said, you had the luxury of having over 213 prototypes, right, in that sense. Now, I think if I'm going to look at it as a lens of, okay, look, I'm a CTO or a CIO. I need to get some of these solutions. I have many vendors who are coming to me. How do I filter them down to know which is really the best one for me?
Very important is the business alignment. I think it's maybe the learning, it was less around what the vendors, but more on the business alignment on what we're trying to achieve. That was really key, and I'm repeating this. I was just in a panel yesterday and repeating the same with one of the other transformation leaders on the industry. Lacking that alignment will bring us to a technical discussion where we're comparing KPIs across vendors, when in the reality is to which extent we are ready to really deeply transform the business or the area that we are focusing on. The technological question is a very difficult one right now because there are multiple frontier LLM players that are building solutions around the LLM. So orchestration layer is now a very big discussion and a big fight across the frontier players. To your question, I would say I'll remove it from assessing across vendors, but more on how this solution can be even tested in production quickly. Our main spirit on how we take decision in our case is that we want to stress test very quickly the solutions to the reality of production. So instead of spending time on discussing the eventualities, and today it's very easy to build a POC. It's very straightforward to build a POC and control the POC environment and make it very nice. And so what we like to do is move very quickly to a POC stage. We run with actual production data, and then we see how it reacts, and we can compare and benchmark. So we are spending less time on evaluation and more on experimentation, testing, iterating, and seeing if, it's delivering its promises, or no, we think that we can do better with another solution.
Okay, so in a layman's term, okay, for me, as somebody not from the industry, I'd probably asking, does that mean that I should demand to try before you buy?
I would say now more than ever, because you would have asked what was the best model just last year at the same time. I don't know if you'd had the same answer as today. It's a very fast moving space. And in our approach, it's around experimenting, testing, and learning as of what is available now, but being mindful that all of what we are assessing and understanding today will probably change tomorrow. So it's different from the way that we've been building architectures in the past, where we know that we are building this and probably it will be the same for the next 3-4 years until we decide otherwise. Right now, the way that we execute on these initiatives is less at as a large scale team where we need 20 departments and we implement like all of these initiatives today on how we are, at least in the insurance industry, working towards is having small teams, squad that can own this and can connect the dots between IT, integration, and maybe coming back to your point earlier around how to manage the different privacy layer architecture. But we are setting up teams of AI engineers, full stack developers, DevOps that can control the full scope of the initiative, because they will be able to iterate, experiment, and then quickly come up with their conclusions for us to decide then what will be the right direction. So I think it's, coming back to your point, it's more like experimenting quickly in an agile way, and what you learn and what you experiment now will probably change dramatically in the next 2-3 months.
I think it's a very poignant view of things as well. Now, last thing for the listeners out there, especially CTOs and CIOs, you mentioned from POC to scaling. If you could give them some advice on what would be the accelerator to make that happen, what would it be?
POCs in the space, and maybe that's all I had this caveat, POCs in the space today of the maturity of the vibe coding, let's say, and all of the tools around facilitating the development of application, it's very easy. Anyone today can build an application. It's very straightforward. You can just go and put 2-3 prompts on an application, a vibe coding application, and then you have an application. So POCs now are exploding. The number of POCs are exploding, and anyone now can build POCs. So before even thinking about what POC needs to go to production, the first question is, what's really important for your business and where you have the business alignment and the top-down alignment. So let's say out of the 20 POCs, 50 POCs that you're seeing your organization toying with, which one is aligning truly with your business objectives? I would start there, even forgetting the technology. If it's not aligning with your business strategy and business outcomes, I'll not even look into it. That's just something that can play around, that would not be worth the effort. Now, when you know where there is an alignment clearly with the business outcomes with a strong sponsorship, the challenge that you will get from moving from a POC to deploying to production is obviously looking at the ecosystem around the POC. Is the IT readiness around the agents there? Do you have the right APIs? Do you have the right layers for controls? Do you have the right observability? Do you have the right AI governance, privacy in place? We at Zurich Insurance, we have all of these assets managed at group level, as I mentioned earlier, on AI governance. But if you don't have these capabilities, then you know that you will have some limits, and then the journey would be maybe a bit longer. But why I'm emphasizing on this, the journey is less on the POC tech challenges, but more around alignment, pushing the IT readiness, and then pushing all of the compliance, legal aspects around it, and differs from one industry to another. We're just speaking with folks from the from the banking industry, from the private banks, and that's even a much more complex challenge to even consume LLMs. That's just an example aside. Now, if I remove all of that the guardrails, readiness, compliance on top of the business outcome, the key challenges that you'll face when moving from a POC to production is testing with real data and getting your application to be tested against real data and seeing how it will evolve out there. And that's where it will become maybe, I guess, more of an AI problem, because you are evaluating, looking at the accuracy, seeing what are the how are the agents performing, and that's really the strong component number one, evaluation. So it's easy to build an AI agent that can perform very well on one or two examples, but how can you tell to your rest of your leadership team that, well, my AI agent is performing at this % accuracy looking at the last 1 year or 2 years of data? That evaluation part is very critical, and it's also very complex. So that I would say that's the component number one that will put at comfort the business so that they can even push on deploying to production. And that evaluation then will push the question around to which extent, now coming back to my point earlier around agency of the agent. Do you want to give full agency if they're performing at 99% accuracy and you're happy and you can delegate that to the agents? Or no, actually we see a big discrepancy between certain areas, and maybe we want to keep the human in the loop and we want to keep tighter controls.
Understood. Well, if there's anything you have to take away from this podcast, it is that your alignment, your assessment, and your evaluation. 3 big pillars in order for you to scale AI in your enterprise. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for listening into the podcast. Now, Sami, let everybody know how they can get in touch with you if they want to learn more about yourself and, of course, your work at Zurich.
Well, I think that Zurich is quite loud around the AI initiative that we roll out, as you mentioned, around the Agentic AI. And I think that we publish a lot on what the good work that the organization is doing. And available on LinkedIn. Please drop a note. And we are also investing, trying to hire good AI engineers. Maybe a word out there. Reach out on LinkedIn.
You've heard from Sami from Zurich Insurance. And ladies and gentlemen, if you've heard the podcast till now, thank you so much. Remember, comment, like, and subscribe. Continue to support the podcast. And this has been another episode of ATxEnterprise Tech Unpacked. See you next time. Bye, everyone.